Hey guys, Snupy here. So the war within is upon us, which means it's time to make my ultimate Feral Druid PvP guide for this new expansion. I'm going to cover everything you need to know so you can hit the ground running as soon as expansion launches. It's going to have great tips for beginner Feral Druids, but even advanced Feral Druids should hopefully be able to get some good tips from this guide. But yeah, we're going to cover everything from build, your opener, burst, general rotation, tips and tricks, when to cyclone, when not to cyclone, your gear, stats, tier set, and also like the best arena comps to play in the new expansion. So yeah, that's the plan. Let's dive into it. Okay, so first up, we're going to talk about build / hero talents. So as you might have seen already, we got 2 new hero talents. Every class spec is getting 2 new hero talents each they can use. Feral Druid gets Wildstalker and Druid of the Claw. My main build goes around Wildstalker. I think this is what you should play almost always. So that's what this guide here is going to be revolved around. This is not to say that Druid of the Claw is never good, and maybe at some point I'll make a separate guide for this kind of playstyle. But yeah, the best thing to play is Wildstalker, so that's what I'm going to be covering right now. So with that being said, Wildstalker is a more bleed, rot heavy playstyle, the kind of playstyle that most Feral Druids really, really love, which is why I'm so excited for this new expansion. And yeah, that is the hero talents that we're going with. Here's the build. So one nice difference, let me move the camera down here. So one nice difference that in the War Within was not the case in Dragonflight. It's that we're finally kind of back to one main build. My previous guys, last expansion, all had like 2 builds. It was the Cleave build and the single target build, and I had to kind of go with both individually. Now, this one build is both in one. You apply your rip manually, even when you're cleaving, you're not going permaraf, and you can still cleave, and you can still go single target, and you can do both things with this one build at a super, super high level. So yeah, I'm not going to cover absolutely everything, but I'm going to go over a few key points in the build. So with this kind of bleed playstyle, we are going to be optimizing for bleeds, of course, but the thing about it, you can see that the name of the build is bleed / bites. The bites are deadly in this build as well. And your bites will be buffing your bleed single target now. All your damage over time effects is going to be increased on the target you bite for 4 seconds, scaling with your com points. So basically up to 15% more damage on your bleeds after you bite your target. So yeah, we're not going Incarn anymore. There's a big change. Incarn used to be 30 seconds. Now it's 20. Circ used to be 20. Now it's 15. So only a 5-second differential on Circ and Incarn now, which has made me and most other Feral Druids opt to go for other things like Connor's Instincts and Saberjaws instead of Frantic Momentum to get down to the Incarn. That's one thing that I really recommend right now, is doing just that. That's not to say the Incarn is bad. Definitely sometimes it's very nice to have the extra stealth and the extra energy reduction, but to me, this just feels way better so far. We're going back to Lunar Inspiration, having Moonfire in cat form, and also Adaptive Swarm. This is like more akin to Shadowlands Necrolord Feral Druid, but a way more open version of that playstyle, as we're no longer tied down to Draft of the Focus, if you remember that legendary. It basically forced you to go single target. That is no longer a thing. But yeah, Moonfire, Lunar, we're going double Carnivores, double Saberjaws. We got the 3-stack Blood Talents, super, super nice. And of course, Feral Frenzy. Circle, Vein Ripper, huge bleeds, huge bites is basically this right here. And also good energy coming from Tireless Energy. Then we got the hero talent. The main thing to kind of keep in mind with Wildstalker is just that your bleeds, your normal bleeds, Rip and Rake, have a chance to proc Bloodsucker Vines. Now these are just an extra dot that happens on your targets, and they can do quite good damage, which again feeds into that bleed kind of rot playstyle. We have other cool things there, like Flower Walk. When you bark skin, you get more movement speed, or you're going to get more heals as well. Or you can go Entangling Vortex. When you pull someone back with Vortex, they get rooted. Really, really cool talent. There's not really much to read here, as this is all pretty much passive, but keep in mind also Harmony's Constitution. Your regrowth healing to yourself is increased by 25%. Very nice in like 1v1s and kind of scenarios where you're going to be relying heavily on healing yourself. Then you have Bond with Nature, which is all healing received increase, which is quite nice if you're playing with a healer. And then you have, this one is actually quite important to keep in mind. When you gain or lose Fury, your next single target melee ability causes a Bloodsucker to grow on the target for 4 seconds. Basically, just Fury as often as you can, and getting a quite good value from implant. Okay, so now for the Druid general tree. So some very, very cool things has happened in this tree since Dragonflight. They finally fixed some of the core issues it had. One of those being the Cyclone is now moved into a way better spot. Also, cool new talents like Fluid Form, which means basically, practically, power shifting is back in a limited form, but it is back in a super, super nice and smooth way when you learn how to use talent, which we're going to talk about later in the video. But basically, if I'm Maglo in cat form, I can be in bear form off global. If I rake from bear form, I'll be in cat form off global, and the rake will also give me a comb point. Same with shred as well. I can actually use like these in any form. For example, I can be in human form and rake, and then I'm going to be back in cat form off global. This means you can pretty much skip the global and just keep raking and keep going human form, which is quite nice if you're getting rooted or slowed down a lot. So yeah, super, super cool talent. Also, just things that have been made more accessible in general. We always have Vortex or Master Root now. Quite nice. This talent again plays into Vortex. Super, super fun to like play around with these two. Also, Typhoon is an easy pickup now. So when you see this build in its current form, does not mean that this is the only way to have this build. There are modifications you can make. Like, for example, if you want to go for... I'm going to make the example right now. Well-honed Instincts, you can skip this, still get Renewal, Rise to Nightfall Night, and grab Well-honed. Like so. Or if I want to have Rumor Corruption into a Warlock or into a Shaman, I can skip this and grab that. So yeah. The one and final version I'm going to link under the video is going to be a version that, again, can be modified a bit. Just keep that in mind. There's a few different ways to go about it. For example, like this. But yeah, those are the main things I want to kind of bring attention to when it comes to the actual build. Now we're going to go over the rotation and everything like that. And then after that, touch on the PvP talents. Let's dive into it. Okay, so first I'm going to cover the opener / burst, as the opener is very bursty. Then go into the general rotation and what to do in between goes. Just a few things again on talents to really keep in mind as I'm showcasing this is blood talents. 3 different generators within 4 seconds can make your next 3 rip and bites to 25% increased damage. Want to aim to always have this up. By the way, when it comes to Raging Fury and Tiger's Tenacity, both are really good. I'm still leaning more heavily towards Raging Fury, as 5 additional seconds of Tiger's Fury, especially when you expect double Carnivorous Instincts, it's just super, super high value. So yeah, that is what I'm going for. Also, energy-wise, keep in mind you want to be above 50 for bites when possible. You don't always need to be on 50 or more, but yeah, that is the optimal amount to have because of bite just doing more damage then, especially with the new talent, Saber Jaws. When you spend extra energy on first bite, the extra damage is increased by 80%. A few things to keep in mind. Also, bottom right, you can see the exact order of spells I'm pressing. All right, let's get into it. So, the opener, we're going to Fury and Stealth, Rake, pretty much instantly hit Berserk as we open, Feral Frenzy, Swarm, Moonfire to proc blood talents, Rip, do 1 shred, Bite, then we can Slash, maybe Rake, whatever, proc a new BT, Bite. Now I'm going to kind of showcase it. It will depend a bit on the exact situation. Sometimes you want to Rake something fast again, or Moonfire, maybe do a Slash. The main point is getting new generators in to reproc the blood talents. So as we go, Fury, Cirque 2, Feral Frenzy, Swarm, Lunar now, Shred, Bite, can Shred again, Bite. Now we're going to reproc the blood talents, like so. New blood talents. And now I can wait for Forbidden Energy and Bite again. These bites do a lot of damage. Let's keep it going. And now at this point, you've kind of done your opener. You got full bleeds up. Now your main job is to maintain these bleeds with blood talents up. Like so. And yeah, that's kind of just the opener / burst that we do when we open. This will vary a bit. Sometimes you can just go for more bites instantly, or even do a maim off the first rake to keep them stunned, especially if you have other teammates also damaging. But that's the opener that I usually do if I just want to get full bleeds up and also do a lot of big bites. But do keep in mind there are a couple variations. So one of those variations would be that we maim after the rake to keep them stun chain for longer, potentially then into a triple DR meld rake stun after that again. So that will look something like this. Fury Circ, same thing so far. Moonfire proc with T, but then we're going to maim. We'll get him with a rip, and then triple DR rake stun again, and then maybe throw in a bite afterwards. If you rip there or bite and do 2 bites instead, exactly depends on what you want to do. But the main point is you can also do openers that stun chain for longer. You can do openers with even more bites if you just want to really just burst heavy instantly. Some variations, but with these 2 openers you saw, the first one is the one I do usually. Second one is a variation that I can also do, especially again if you have teammates doing damage as well. It could be nice to keep them stun chained for your mage, shadow priest, whoever's on your team. Yeah, just keep that in mind. Alright, so now at this point you'd have applied full bleeds, you've used your Circ, and your Fury and Frenzy will soon be off cooldown, right? So just waiting, you apply full bleeds. One nice thing to keep in mind, fluid form, of course the enemy is going to be attacking you, which means you're going to have to try to survive. As a Feral Druid, it's a big part of it. Now fluid form, you can for example go bear form, do a maul, strength of the wild. Super nice, get more utility back into bear form. And then you can power shift back at the cat form with the rake, reapply the rip. And yeah, just keep the bleeds up and survive until you have your Feral Frenzy and your Fury back. At this point now, I'm going to pretend we don't have Circ because we kind of used that already. This is be a go without Circ. We can Swarm, Maim, Feral Frenzy, hit him with a bite. We can slash again. Maybe do a DR bash off if we have that available. And just keep it going. Keep proccing BT, keep biting, and keep pressure going. In arena, you're probably going to cast a cyclone on the healer before that, or help your teammate land a CC with maybe a bash, or just even a root. Again, in actual arena, there's so many different scenarios that will happen. But the main point is maintain the bleeds, line up your Feral Frenzy, your Fury, and your Swarm. Use those together, throw in some big bites, and that is the general rotation. It's really not that complicated. But again, it's going to get a bit more complicated when you're getting trained down or you have to kite at the same time. Maintain the bleed. Same thing again. Swarm, Feral Frenzy. You can go. You can also Frenzy then Swarm. Depends a bit on the scenario. Restun when you can. And just keep the bleeds up. Now this is the general rotation. Single target. Let's say now we want to put in some Cleave. We're going to be doing this just on 2 targets. So again, apply the bleeds, rake, rip, moonfire. And keep in mind, these rake and rips will be proccing Bloodsucker Vines, as you can see, because of our hair talent right here. And these will be doing a good amount of damage in their own, on their own. But yeah, same thing. Let's say now we're cleaving 2 targets. Circus is going to be back up soon. Keep cleaving. Maybe we have to try and live a bit now. We're going to go bear form, fluid form, maul, kite away a bit, dash, kite. Maybe cast cyclone, circus back. We're going to go back in. You want to try to have full bleeds up before I go. So get full bleeds up, press the circ, and then we can maim, fury, feral frenzy, swarm, and do some big bites. Maybe DR bash off into one more big bite. And this is the way you're going to secure a lot of kills. Again, when you're circing, shredding is quite good. But slash is usually going to be your favorite comp point generator, as is way cheaper, does better damage. From range, Moonfire is super great as well, as you can kite and also rot them down. And this playstyle is going to be back quite heavily in the War Within. We're going to be applying bleeds, keeping distance, getting comp points, and then jumping in when the chance is there. For example, like this. Swarm, have 5 comp points because Moonfire, jump in, maim, feral frenzy, bite. Again, make sure you reapply that rake whenever the chance is there. And bite again. It's a bit messy, and I'm trying to kind of showcase different scenarios, what could happen, but hopefully get the general idea. Maintain the bleed up time. That is your number one thing. I really want to ingrain that in your brain. Bleed up time is more important than anything as a Feral Druid. bite with excess combo points, but you also want to stun when you have to. So when you're going single target, you're going to be doing more bites. When you're cleaving, you're going to be less bites and using more combo points on maintaining bleeds and stunning, and then biting more on the goes. But yeah, that is the general rotation moving into the War Within. Alright, so let's keep it nice and short for the PvP talents. So we get 3 different picks. Usually, these will depend on the comp you're facing and what I'm playing with. Examples this: Thorns, great into melees, not so good into casters as it has no value then. Wicked Claws, very good to play, but if you have an MS effect, for example, from a Hunter or Warrior on your team, this also gets way less value. This means that depending on what we're facing and what we're playing, we're going to be changing. But what I'm playing right now is quite standard: Strength of the Wild, Ferocious Wound, and Wicked Claws. Now, you can change Ferocious Wound, for example, for high winds, if you really want the range on Cyclone, maybe a bigger map with casters, or maybe you're facing melee cleave and you want to get Thorns, kind of fence them off a bit. So yeah, that's one example of a change you'd make. If you also then maybe you don't need the MS effect because you may be playing jungle and I'm facing casters on a bigger map, I can go high winds and Ferocious Wound. Now, if I'm cleaving harder, King of the Jungle is also quite nice. So this is one you can also pick, especially if you're spreading your rip. And then you can look something like this right here. But again, you gotta kind of take what I said now and apply it to your own game. If I'm facing now a comp like double melee, but I have a warrior on my team, then I might not need Wicked Claws, and then I can go Thorns instead. Just for example. So yeah, that's it for PvP talents. Now on to the next part of the guide. So because of Dragonflight and how Cyclone dependent we were, because of the talent Wild Attunement, which gave you a free Feral Frenzy when you land a Cyclone, that is now gone. I feel like I need to touch on Cyclone usage because we used so much in Dragonflight, especially towards the end. But now, with that talent being gone, Cyclone is kind of back to what it used to be. It is great to land, to create pressure, to alleviate pressure from your team, and just to, you know, create control in general. But you do not Cyclone for damage anymore. So if you're used to like the Dragonflight Feral Druid playstyle, you need to get used to cycloning less. Maintaining bleeds and doing damage is going to be your #1 priority. And then when it's time to either land a kill or maybe peel for your team, that's when you're going to be cycloning for the most part. Of course, kind of comes down to also game experience, like knowing when it can actually land a clone, so you're not just wasting time trying to cyclone for like 10 seconds, not landing it, losing all your pressure, and also not landing any CC. So knowing when it can clone, for example, using roots and stuns to make it more, of course, it's dummy, so I can't really do it right here, to make cycloning easier, it's going to be super, super important. Again, the last thing you want to do is using 10, 15 seconds, or even just 5 seconds, trying to land a cyclone, and just getting CC'd, getting caught out of form, losing your bleeds, losing your pressure, and just losing the game eventually. So yeah, bleeds, #1 priority. Cyclone when you want to create pressure or alleviate pressure, which is usually, but use your roots, use your cyclones, use your new talent like Vortex, for example, as well, to make sure it actually lands so you're not just wasting time going for it. Or cyclone off your teammate's CC. For example, your Hunter can trap someone and you can cyclone off the trap. It's going to be way easier to land. Or off a fair, for example, have cyclone, or just a stun, whatever it might be. Yeah, just a quick kind of section on Cyclone because it's changed a lot since Dragonflight. And I would just actually watch also like my videos where I do PvP and try pick up on when I do Cyclone. Of course, sometimes also spend time cycloning it without landing it. But yeah, try pick up on when I use it because it's quite important to not overdo it and lose all your pressure. Yeah, now on to the next part. So by the way, if anyone's wondering how I have full gear and everything, it is because I'm on the War Within beta, which is super nice that I can make my guide here because here I can showcase everything we're going to be having in Season 1 instantly. By the way, if anyone's watching this in Season 1, maybe you're watching this 2 months from now, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, let's dive into it. So, stat-wise, we're going to be going Verse, Mastery, Haste, crit. I'm talking more about crit a bit later, as our 4 set and 2 set, our tier set, actually works very well with crit. But yeah, those are the stats. Now let's kind of dive over, into the gear. I'm going to go through it, talk about some pieces. There are actually embellishments too. Precog and stuff has gone on the gems, which I'm going to showcase right now. But yeah, let's start with the headpiece. So quick disclaimer, usually you can actually gem the headpiece, but early beta, it bugged out for me. I got 3 gems in each ring. You can actually only have 2, but it's an early beta bug. So also keep that in mind, that that is not normal. And usually I'll have a gem on my headpiece. But yeah, with that being said, let's dive into it. So headpiece, verse mastery. We got the verse mastery neck as well. There are going to be crafted pieces in the War Within. So you can craft, for example, you know, the same amount of verse and mastery instead of so much more verse and mastery. But both are basically bis. Just depends a bit on how you want to optimize your stats. Then we got verse mastery cloak with chant of burrowing rapidity. Then we have the tear set. Wait, that skipped shoulders. We have tear set shoulders as well with haste mastery. Then we have tear set chest. I'm going to talk about the tear set soon, by the way. Tear set haste mastery chest as well with Storm Rider's agility enchant. Then we have the bracers. Haste verse with speed. Again, here we could probably craft verse mastery bracers, and that might be a little bit better stat-wise. But yeah, with speed. As you see, the gems are mostly mastery verse. I think you just go this in all your gems and you'll be happy. But you actually get 1 PvP gem, which I'm going to get to soon. Verse mastery weapon. Forge Gladiator's battle staff. Then we have insignia, medallion. We got the rings, the haste verse ring, and the verse mastery ring. Here you can actually see the gem I'm talking about, precog. It's now no longer an embellishment. It is now a gem. You have different PvP gems. We have cognitive bloodstone, determined bloodstone, and enduring bloodstone. I think precog has great value, especially in matchups where you do got to clone a bit. But determined bloodstone also great. Sorry, this one also great. 5% reduced damage reduction when affected by crowd control. And then we also have this one, just gives you more stats and more damage next attack. I think all these 3 are quite interesting. Exactly which one I'm going here and which one I'm going to be playing with, I'd say stay tuned on my Armory. I'm going to link that below the stream. And there you can also track my progress throughout the season as I'm getting the gear. But yeah, I think all these 3 are quite interesting. For now, though, I'm kind of going with precog for the most part. But yeah, Curse Mastery enchants on both rings. So Curse Mastery is a new enchant that will like sap a different stat. In real time now, I'm actually going to say we should probably go Radiant Mastery instead. These actually got buffed on the beta recently. And I think I recommend those more at the moment. So let's swap over from Curse to Radiant. Early beta, these had like almost no mastery on them. But yeah, now they got buffed a bit. It was a while ago though. Boots, we got haste verse boots with Scout's March. Again, later on, can probably craft here to get a bit better stats if that's something that we want. Then we have the legs, Crypt Mastery Tear Set with the agility, 620 agility enchant. Haste verse waist. Again, same thing here, can make verse mastery later on the season. And also haste verse gloves, completing our 4 set. So, there are some embellishments that I want to touch on now as well that I've been trying out. Adrenal Surge Clasp, and also Rune Branded Armbands. What this does, taking damage has a chance to grant you an Adrenal Surge, costing you to gain 2,191 agility and lose 310 mastery for 12 seconds. Pretty huge value, actually procs a lot as well. And then you play a different embellishment. It's like these Nerubian embellishments. Embrace the Darkness, double the effect of your other Nerubian embellishment item, positive and negative. So, these are just something I'm kind of trying out now. They feel pretty good. On this one, again, I'll say stay tuned on my Armory and see what I'm going mid-season. Because things are a bit up in the air, and they might change all the way till the very end of the season, what people do. So stay tuned on that, but these are 2 that I'm trying out at the moment, just so you are aware of that. But now let's talk about the 4 set more. So as you might have seen in the burst / opener part of this guide, when I crit my component generators, I'm gaining a stack of something. Right here. Fell Prey. This is because of our 4 set. Critical striking with your compointing generating abilities increase the direct damage of your next ferocious bite and rampant ferocity or prime wrath by 15%. The most important part here is bite. 15% more damage on bite, stacking 3 times. This should be getting nerfed in PvP, so half of that in PvP. So keep that in mind. Still very, very strong though. The 2 set targets first increase your chance to strike for 10 seconds, starting at 6, increasing by 1 every 2 seconds. So basically, later in Fury, higher crit chance. Also, one argument for Raging Fury, by the way. So yeah, just keep this in mind. I have been thinking about going more crit because of this, but I've kind of come to the conclusion that haste is still better overall, and we're still going to just get some crit from playing our 4 set and such. But in that sense, it's not really changing the stats I'm going, but it is something you want to keep in mind. Probably going to get a weak core for this too. And it does increase the value of crit a bit. Before I would say haste was way more important than crit. Now the gap has been closed a bit. But I still prefer haste. I think it really smoothens out the playstyle. But definitely keep the 4 set in mind. Stack this with a Blood Talents with Fury, and you're going to be doing some huge, huge bites. And also make sure you don't just lose the procs, because sometimes you're not going to proc more, and it's just going to fade away, and it's wasted extra damage. And just make sure that I covered everything here. Yeah, so guys, that's the gearing part. I have like a notepad here to make sure I'm not missing any things. I'll say stay tuned on all the crafted gear and that stuff on my armory, as that's probably going to be a thing that's going to evolve throughout the season. But yeah, that is the gearing and stats, gems, all that stuff for now. The name of the gems, by the way, is Versatile Onyx. That is the Verse Mastery gem. And yeah, here's the PP ones as well. I'll mouse over them for you guys. Now, I'm going to talk about how to survive in Arena as a Feral Druid. That's a big part that people wonder about. How to actually live. So yeah, let's dive into it. So, when it comes to surviving in Arena as a Feral Druid, we have a few line of defenses, right? I would say number 1 is our mobility. If you can just get out of the trouble before it even starts, that is the best thing you can do. You just run, kite with a pillar, and still have bleeds rolling as they want to kill you, but you're just gone. So that's your number 1. But of course, that's not always going to be possible. And sometimes you're going to be caught up in a stun or just be caught up taking a lot of damage. That's where bear form comes into the picture in a big way. If you can pre-bear from a stun, for example, a kidney shot, it's going to make you so much more likely to live that go. Or if you're just taking damage, you can't get away. Being in bear form when it's happening is huge. Now, having bleeds as you're in bear form is pretty important. And this is something I'm going to touch on as well, is our bear form utility is actually very, very high right now. In the sense of you can be a threat in bear form, especially when bleeds are rolling, by using Strength of the Wild, which does a lot of damage now on the beta or in the War Within. And also you can also slash in bear form. These combined with fluid form, how easy and seamlessly you can move from cat form to bear form and bear form to cat form. You can truly make it seamless and still be a threat even when you're on the defense, which is one of my favorite things about the War Within Feral Druid. And I think a lot of you guys probably agree with that. That is an amazing thing that Ferals, I think, have been missing for a while, is that bear form utility. And again, it's kind of been brought back. But yeah, so when it comes to living, again, using your mobility, Feral Druid is probably the fastest spec in the game. You can shapeshift roots. You can kind of be anywhere you want to be. You can kite, especially now with like Vortex. You can kite away super easily. Root someone, Vortex them. Make sure bleeds are up as they're doing it. You run, they're rotting down. They're not going to be having a good time, and you're going to be having a great time. So that's number 1. Maintain bleeds, bear form. Of course, you also have things like, your trinket, bark skin, frenzied regen. Actually heals a lot now as well. And wall. Your first line of actual defensives is going to be bark skin. You can also use it while you're stunned, which is great. Wall is, of course, a heavy defensive, which you want to avoid pressing unless the enemy has traded a major defensive. When it comes to like other defensives, I guess you could say that, you know, your Stampeding Roar and Dash can be defensives. You want to use those when you really have to, when you got to escape. I have a pretty bad habit of pressing them off cooldown because I like being fast. Heart of the Wild is going to grant you 2 stacks of Frenzied Regen, which is super nice. You can also Swarm yourself when you regen, as that can increase the healing of your healing over time effects. Frenzied Regen counts as a healing over time effect. That's going to heal a lot with that. And yeah, that's kind of like the main defensives. Of course, you can kind of count everything as a defensive, like your stuns. You can stun to land cyclones to run, root cyclone, run. All these things will kind of build into it. Like I also talked about in the rotation part of the guide, is that like landing cyclones, doing roots is a big part of the feral playstyle, which you do not want to neglect. And a lot of your instants are going to be some roots. Roots are a great way to control melees, but also casters. If you can root like a Shadow Priest for a second, get away behind a pillar, that can be absolutely massive. And yeah, again, Vortex, new talent, or not new talent, but it's kind of new to us for a long time, because now we can actually pick it reliably. Super nice when you want to escape as well. Get behind the pillar. A lot of ferals feel like they try Feral Druid, they just die, which is why I think the learning curve is a bit steep. But once you kind of learn these tricks on how to live, Feral actually becomes one of the hardest specs to kill. Just stay patient, learn the way, try different things, try to test out when to bear form, make sure to focus on bleed up time, learn how to kite, and you're going to be having a great time on Feral Druid. Yeah, that's all I have to say for now for the survivability part. If you have more questions about this, by the way, or about any things in the whole guide, just come to my stream and ask me when I'm live, or leave a comment on this video, and I will try to get to it. Okay, so with all that being said, let's get into the comps you want to play in the War Within as a Feral Druid. Keep in mind, the season hasn't actually started yet, but I mean, these are ones that I'm pretty damn sure are going to be absolutely insane, or at least very good. So, let's start with 3v3. So, Jungle Cleave, I think MM Jungle Cleave, but also Survival Jungle Cleave. Probably BM as well will be good, but yeah, Jungle Cleave should be back in a pretty big way. It was quite nice in the last season of Dragonflight. Before that, it was kind of sleeping, it was slept on a bit, maybe for a good reason. But yeah, I think Jungle Cleave will be really good, especially with MM. Disc Priest looking quite solid as well. Holy Priest is struggling a bit right now, but might also come around eventually. Then you have comps like Kitty Cleave. I think that one might be one that's not been, it's not been too good recently in recent year, really since Shadowlands Season 2. But I think Fear Warrior Kitty Cleave could be back in a big way as well. That's more of a dark horse though. We'll have to see about that one. FMP, Frost Mage Feral Druid, another like staple the recent years. I think it's going to be maybe the best comp Feral Druid competing with Jungle. Frost Mage is currently insane. Feral's also very insane. And then you compare that with probably a Disc Priest or maybe Holy Paladin, even like Preservation Invoker. That's the best healer right now, and it's going to work great. So, the thing about Feral Druid though, you can play with many things. I think SP Feral can work, Alpha Feral can work, FLS, Lock Feral. And you can pretty much pair it with most things and kind of make it work. But yeah, those are the ones I'm going to mention for now. Leave comments down below, by the way, of comps you think might work well. That's always fun to see. But yeah, in 2v2, for healer DPS, I'd say it's always pretty much Priest, Feral Druid, Holy Priest, Feral Druid, Disc Priest, Feral Druid that are going to be the best ones to play with. Holy Paladin can be nice too. Arsham, Preservation Invoker is going to be super strong, or is super strong right now, so it's going to be a good comp in twos. But I'm personally more of a double DPS player. So my comps for double DPS, Ret Feral. By the way, that can also work in threes. Ret Feral healer. But your Ret Feral, double DPS, Shadow Priest Feral Druid, Affliction Feral Druid. Hunter Feral Druid might work quite well because Hunters have gotten a bit more survivability now. So I have to see about that one, because that comp just kind of died before in recent times. But yeah, those comps are the ones that I'm currently looking for. In BG Blitz, the new game mode, I think it's always nice to queue with pretty much any healer, get fast queue times. But Disc Priest, Preservation Invoker, I find Ardra to be quite nice to play with as well in BG Blitz. But really here, I think you play with any healer that works in BGs. Yeah. Those are my comps for Feral Druid in the War Within. And that will also wrap up this guide. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to be streaming the War Within a ton on my Twitch, twitch.tv/Snupy. So come in there, ask me any questions, and I'll try to answer you the best I can. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.